Hello, everybody. My name is Lucas, and welcome back to the Great Southern Scoreboard podcast. I'm really excited to have this second episode going, and today we're going to be talking about what's happening so far in the FIFA World Cup and what's to come. Let's do it. Alrighty then. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Great Southern Scoreboard podcast. I am so excited to be with you, and today I've got a very special guest with me. I have my very own dad, Simon Wads, here with me today. Now, as some backstory for my dad, he has been in the PDHPE industry for 20 years. He's been teaching for 20 years. He loves his sport. He is a special fanatic about soccer and basketball. So I am super excited to have him on here today. Welcome, Dad.
G'day, Lucas. Thanks so much for having me, and congratulations on the podcast. It's great to be able to listen to episode 1 and then be invited on to episode 2. So looking forward to it. All things sport, love it.
Yes, so let's get right into it, I think. So we are obviously seeing we're right in the thick of the round of 32. And kind of just looking at some of the games that have gone so far. Obviously, we saw Canada on Monday go up 1-0. The Netherlands yesterday get upset, as well as the Germans. We saw 2 upsets in penalties with, in complete honesty, some shocking penalties from both losing sides in the end there.
Yeah, it's been a big World Cup so far, and here in Australia, obviously, sleep patterns have been impacted slightly, but that's okay. It happens every 4 years, and so we've got to make the most of it and enjoy every second of it. But yeah, round of 32 has brought about some interesting results, that's for sure. Even the Canadian result over South Africa, they hung in there, the South Africans. And it wasn't until stoppage time in the second half that Canada actually put the ball in the back of the net. So that was a big sigh of relief for them, and a great result, obviously, as one of the host nations of the World Cup. But yeah, big day yesterday. I'll tell you what, heart in mouth moments and edge of your seat stuff as 2 penalty shootouts happened. Look, the Morocco-Netherlands one was a really interesting one because they are ranked 6th and 7th in the world. And so it was always going to be a really close match. And I think, both teams certainly had their chances throughout the match. They could have put it away. But, there's some absolute quality on both teams. And then, some absolute shockers in the penalty shootout. It just goes to show the pressure that these players are under in that environment. Yeah, can tip you over sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And I was definitely feeling right there for the German player, Tar, in that final penalty that he had, shot it straight over the top of the goal, especially after having his own goal disallowed in the last few minutes of the first half of our extra time, I guess, because of pushing over the goalkeeper, which, you know what, I did see why that had to be called as a foul and a disallowed goal, but, you know, if you look back at those highlights, that goalie was right up there, ready to stop that ball anyways. That, whether he was pushed over or not, I don't think he was going to save that header anyway. An absolute rocket of a ball.
Yeah, it's always a tough one when you take on the keeper, and they're a bit of a protected species. No offense to any goalkeepers out there listening. But yeah, any contact with the keeper is going to come under review. And unfortunately for him, that was taken off him. And then I think they found the ball that he kicked in the penalty shootout. I think they found it up in Canada, actually, because it was still rising out of the stands. But look, he'll have that one again any day of the week and do something very different with it. But yeah, like you see, even the best of the best players in the world, the big moments that can get to you. And he wasn't the only one that missed. There was chances from both teams and balls going wide and being sprayed everywhere. But and some great saves for the goalkeepers. I think that's an underrated part of the conversation. Yeah, sure. Is the way that the goalkeepers are really stepping up in this World Cup. The quality of play between the posts, and there are some real hero moments from each of the goalkeepers in both the penalty shootouts yesterday. So, yeah, full credit to the keepers. We can't just, sledge the players for spraying it. We've got to give some credit to the keepers for the work that they do as well.
Yeah, for sure. And just before we move on to Australia, obviously you look at the German game with Kai Havertz being the first goal taker for Germany. Also had very recently a penalty chance with his team Arsenal against PSG in the Champions League. And unfortunately for him, he's just had some really hard luck with penalties. And to his credit, he was going up against an almost 2 meters tall goalkeeper for Paraguay, who, when he walks out onto the field, literally is holding onto that goalpost, the crossbar at the front there, without any stress at all. So I feel like that alone is pretty intimidating.
Yeah, well, I mean, Havertz gave them the goal that put them into the penalty shootout. It was as it was. So he'd had a good game to that point since he was subbed on. But yeah, he's probably going to go back to the training paddock and work on his penalties after those 2 efforts in those 2 big games. So yeah, it can happen to the best of them.
Yeah, for sure. And just before, again, we move quickly on to Australia, we look at the scores from today. We saw France just earlier this morning get up 3-0 over Sweden. Absolute cracker of some goals. Kylian Mbappe with 2 goals in the 45th and the 74th minute, which puts him firmly in the driver's seat towards the Golden Boot with 6 goals and 2 assists in the season so far. Messi close in second with 6 goals but 0 assists. And Erling Haaland, 5 goals, 0 assists. And he's done really well for Norway. So we'll actually see Norway go up against Brazil in the next round, in the round of 16. So that will definitely be an interesting matchup there.
Tell you what, there's some big names at the top of the Golden Boot, as we would expect to see the best in the world in this World Cup competition. But yeah, Mbappe, Messi, Haaland, you don't get many bigger names than that in front of goals in the world of football. But yeah, France just looked absolute class this morning. They were a step ahead of the Swedish team. And yeah, obviously the cream rises to the top right at the big times in the competition. They haven't been super convincing throughout the group stages. I mean, they obviously did enough in each of their games. But up against Sweden, they flicked the switch and Mbappe showed all of his class. I mean, each of his finishes, he had 1 goal disallowed earlier in the game as well for an offside call. But each of his finishes are just absolute class. He knows how to find the back of the net. That's why he gets paid the big bucks to be able to do that. But he is an absolute class performer, and they looked great this morning. So France against Paraguay in the next round. That'll be an interesting one, actually, because obviously Paraguay are going to need to step up their game yet again against France. But they have been very, very solid in stacking their back line and playing that sort of a counter-attacking football up until now, but they're going to need to, ensure they're on their game against France, that's for sure, in order to continue to progress. And as you said before, Norway against Brazil. Brazil scraped through against Japan yesterday, 2-1, and again, it was a Martinelli goal in extra time in the second half that secured it, I think, 96th minute against Japan. So they just scraped through. So again, they haven't hit their straps yet. Have they got enough class to get past Norway? Norway, Erling Haaland is their target at the top there. He is just an absolute beast of a human. And so, it'll be interesting to see that matchup as well as we, get to the pointy end of the competition. Round of 32 at the moment. Then we jump to 16 and then it gets real.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as we look down towards the end of this week, we're going to see some of the last few games of the round of 32. We're going to see Colombia and Ghana, Australia and Egypt, and Argentina versus Cape Verde. Now, this is an Australian sports podcast, so let's have a look at Australia versus Egypt. So, Egypt only getting their first World Cup win this year and making it through to the round of 32 is pretty huge for them, especially with some players like Mohamed Salah and things who may not have actually been able to experience World Cup football at this level, this intensity, as it kind of, you see the intensity move deeper into that higher intensity, I guess, when you go through to that round of 32, round of 16 and onwards. So we've obviously seen some very great football from Australia. Hopefully we're going to see them go through into that round of 16 and onwards, but they've definitely got a hard road against them with Argentina on the other side of things. If we see another upset from Cape Verde, that would be incredible. But, they're going up against the champions from last time. And, of course, one of the greatest football players of all time being Lionel Messi. What are your thoughts on Australia's run through this World Cup so far?
Yeah, well, obviously, as an Aussie, we wanted to see them go as deep as we possibly can, and it was great to see them come out of the group stages. Obviously, we looked great against Turkey in that first game. We really stepped up against them, and then we had a tough match against the USA. We were just outclassed, and they beat us by, playing high intensity, high octane football right up in our faces, and we just weren't ready for it in the first half, and so. We really need to step up another gear against Egypt when they come. If we look back to our Paraguay game, we had our chances. It was a stalemate. We did what we needed to do against them. But yeah, Egypt, it's going to be all about shutting down Mohamed Salah. He is absolute class. He's a Liverpool legend, obviously a free agent at the moment now as well, as he looks to secure the next stages of his career. But the point of their attack is going to go through him the entire time. So we're going to have to be all over that. It's going to be a tough gig for our back line, but they do have some class across the pitch. Not to be, only focusing on one player. We've got to beat 11 players there. So, and he is under a bit of an injury cloud at this point. So, yeah, yet to be confirmed that he is playing. But I dare say, with everything on the line in the round of 32. They will do everything they can to make sure that he's out there on the pitch contributing for Egypt.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it'll definitely make it for an interesting World Cup, and especially an interesting matchup. If he does decide to come back and he is still under that injury cloud and he risks it with his injury, it's going to be interesting to see how far he can actually push through in this Cups if they beat Australia, whether he's going to be able to play in that round of 16 and onwards. But whether they play him or not, I think Australia's going to have their work cut out for them, but I think it's definitely going to be a really great matchup for them, and yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. So I think let's touch quickly on Argentina versus Cape Verde. Cape Verde, this is their first ever World Cup, and they're made it to the round of 32, which is incredible for them. They're a very small little island off the coast of Africa, kind of technically African, I think. But it'll definitely be an interesting matchup for them with Argentina and Messi, who is tied for first in that Golden Boot rankings. What do you see playing out there?
Well, they've been the great story of the World Cup so far, haven't they? They've come out of the group stages. No one predicted that. They were probably predicted just to make up the numbers early on and, probably finish fourth in their group. But they've really stepped up. Population of under 500,000 people. Like, that is just crazy when you think about it. In the landscape of each of the European giants around them, the African countries that are around them, and then, even us as a 27 million people country, they just don't have the numbers to be able to draw from. But obviously a very proud nation, and they've had a great cup run so far. And it's been excited to see the hype around them. They get so excited about, being involved and just, obviously just blessed to be playing in this competition. And now they match up against, the reigning champions, one of the powerhouses of world football. And, obviously the man who many are calling the GOAT, or in the debate of the GOAT player in Lionel Messi, and everything pivots around him. But, take nothing away from the rest of the Argentinian team as well. They've got class from right at the back and between the sticks, in Emi Martinez in goals, right the way through to their strike power up front. They're a solid lineup. They're a formidable force in the world of football. Many people will just think that they'll, just run straight over the top in this round of 32 game. But, you can't take passion away from the Cape Verde team, and you can't underestimate the power of that passion as they step out to play. So that'll be an interesting game. But, yeah, most people are expecting the winner from the Australia-Egypt game will come up against Argentina in that round of 16, which, again, will just, when you're in the World Cup, there is no easy matches. And when you get deeper into the competition like this, you are going to be coming up against the world's best. And you play international football to play against the best teams in the world and the best players in the world. and that is definitely going to be the case as Australia looks to continue their run through the Cup. Got to get past Salah and Egypt first. That's our first target this weekend. Then we can, start to look to that round of 16 beyond that. But yeah, it's Australia's in amongst it. You got to keep winning to stay alive in this competition now, knockout phases, and so it'll be a great for Australian football to be playing against some of these big names.
Definitely, and I touched on this a little bit in that first episode. We saw so much hype across the whole country for the Matildas only a few years ago as they had their incredible run to the semi-finals right here in Australia and New Zealand. And that really actually brought a lot of the country together. People who weren't big soccer fans at the time, they were all starting to love soccer, starting to enjoy it more because why wouldn't you? Matildas, they're playing right here on our home country and really showing up for the country. And so I think Australia's doing such an incredible job in the men's. They've had such a hard slog over the past couple of years of hard draws and also just a struggle to get deep into these playoffs. And I think this could be a great year for us as a country to see our men's team finally have a great run for the first time in quite a little while. So that'll be really great to watch. And then obviously Messi, he's got quite a bit of motivation behind him. We've got a lot of older players now in the World Cup. Ronaldo, 42 years old or something like that now. And so this will probably be some of their last World Cups. We're going to see probably one of Messi's final World Cups. Ronaldo, Manuel Neuer, the goalkeeper for Germany. We're seeing some last hurrahs, some last dances for them. And hard for Manuel Neuer to go out the way that he did in that shootout and a hard slog for him over the past few years. But definitely Messi, he's looking to go back-to-back, which would be a great feat for him and a great way to end it. And even if he won the Golden Boot, I think that would still be a great way for him to end his kind of World Cup run for Argentina. I think he's had such an incredible run over the past however many years he's been playing in it, and he's created such a name for himself and a name for Argentinian football. He's been such an inspiration for people, not only in Argentina, but all over the world. When people, young kids, when they sit there and say, I want to play soccer, they're not saying they want to be like that random guy from Cape Verde. They're all sitting here going, I want to be like Lionel Messi, or I want to be like Ronaldo or your Mbappe's. And so they're really creating such great names for themselves and really promoting football in their country. I think we're going to see a lot of young players from Argentina coming up in the future with these aspirations to be just like Messi,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touch on a few points there. Neuer announced his retirement from international football after that penalty shootout. So obviously a shout out to him. What a great career. He's been a bit of a game changer in the world of football as a goalkeeper, a real ball playing goalkeeper. So really confident with the ball at his feet. You see a lot of him coming out in the defensive half outside his own box to get involved in the gameplay. So he's had a wonderful career between the sticks for Bayern Munich and for the German national team, obviously as their team captain as well. But yeah, you're right. There's big names all over the world that are influencing global football, not just in their own home countries. And, you go around any football park here in Sydney any weekend and you'll see Ronaldo and Messi jerseys everywhere and Mbappe jerseys. The international flavour is definitely the world of football. And look, it's wonderful to see Australia embracing this World Cup as well. It was great to see so many schools taking the afternoon off, whatever their regular practice was, to watch the Socceroos last Friday, and that really spread really well across the culture of Australian football. And like you said, just from the results of the Matildas, if we can continue to go deep into this competition. Football is the most highly played sport here in Australia, and we're just so blessed to have so many options for sport here in this country that sometimes football isn't the standout sport that we follow when you've got the likes of the NRL and AFL and cricket and even the National Basketball League taking off here in Australia. So it's nice to see the international game of football getting some real traction in this on the biggest stage in world sport. and many will say now more highly regarded or watched than even the Olympic Games. They announced this morning, I saw on the coverage in the French game, that there was 5 million people that had gone into stadiums around Mexico, the US, and Canada throughout the World Cup so far, and we're only just starting the knockout phases. So it is a highly watched, highly supported competition, and it's great that our Aussie boys are still alive, and we're giving it a red hot crack. And let's see how deep we can go into the competition. We've ticked a lot of boxes to this point so far, and now it's time to just hedge our bets and go for gold. See how deep we can go. Leave nothing in the tank.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll be right back in just a moment with some predictions for the World Cup. Okay, so here we are. Predictions, World Cup. We're getting towards the pointy end of we've been saying. I'm actually not sure who I'd pick to win. At the start of the World Cup, everyone was sitting here saying, Spain is the favourites. They've got such an incredible team, and they're going to win really well. And they've actually had quite a strange run, I guess you'd say. Obviously, their first game was a draw 0-0, and I touched a bit on that in our first episode. So if you're interested in what I touched on there, head back and have a listen to the first 15 or so minutes of the first episode. But it was definitely an interesting start for Spain. And a lot of the big name teams that we saw were really struggling to get the ball rolling very early on. We saw some very tight matchups between teams that we didn't think they'd have a tight matchup against. But then we also saw big name teams go on really big wins, but now being knocked out. We saw Germany win 7-1 against Curacao and now already knocked out. And I expected them to go on a pretty deep run through these playoffs. So what are your thoughts on who you think will go deep, who you tip to win the whole World Cup?
Yeah, it's a good question. Good question. I think, look, after their result the other day, Morocco are looking really, really sharp. They'll match up against Canada in the round of 16. And if they continue the way that they are playing at the moment, Morocco should advance through to the quarterfinals there, and will take on the winner of the France-Paraguay game. So that'll be a great quarterfinal match if it ended up being Morocco v France, say. That'd be pretty tight. France, as I said earlier, they are looking like they're hitting their straps at the right time of the competition. They have class right across the pitch. And obviously the strike power up front between Dembele and Mbappe. You're not going to find a better partnership up front than the two of those. The question mark was at the start, could they work well together? And I don't think we've seen them both fire at the same time just yet. But one of the benefits of having two weapons up front is that when one doesn't fire, the other one steps up, and vice versa. Yep. In the next bracket, we've got Belgium and Senegal will play in the round of 32, and then you've got the US and Bosnia Herzegovina. Again, Belgium, talked about early as being one of the favourites, but haven't really had a good flex this competition so far. I've looked a little bit sluggish. But anything can happen. They can flick a switch like France have done at the right time and really step it up. They've got class again. You mentioned France. They're up against Austria in this round 32 game in a couple of days, and they will they should progress through against Austria, but then they will come up against the winner of the Portugal-Croatia game. Again, that's a tough bracket to start to pick. But as we said, again, we are looking like every matchup is going to get tighter and tighter from this point forward. We talk about Portugal, again, a team that is stacked across the park. They look sharp, led by Ronaldo, who again hasn't looked as sharp as he has in previous years. So maybe the rest of the world's catching up with him, and the defenders are working out how to match up against him. Still got England alive. Algeria have looked pretty strong. Colombia, but I think at this point, if you're asking for my tip, I'm going to lean towards the winner of that France-Morocco bracket there. I think the two of those teams have looked really, really sharp at this point, and they'll match up really well. I think that'll be a really tight, one goal affair, and we'll see who comes through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I saw enough this morning from France to say they're probably in the box seat, but Morocco will give them a fair run. So I think my winner is going to come from that end of the draw.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I'm in a similar boat there. I'm not really 100% sure on who I would call our champions of the World Cup. I think you kind of got to get through to the quarterfinal. I might be able to give you a more solid answer. It's that idea that there's so many teams left that have had really great runs and some really interesting runs, and so it's really hard to pick out a direct winner at the moment. And I totally agree with you on that. France or Morocco ball there. And I just quickly want to touch Mexico playing today at 11 a.m. So at the time of this recording, it's going to be about half an hour. Mexico versus Ecuador. Now, Mexico have actually looked really good. They've had a really great run through their games so far, and they've really shown up for their home country. I guess, as I touched on that first episode, there's something about playing in your home country that makes all the difference, and Mexico have looked very strong, playing a 4-1-2-3, and really quite a nice age bracket between them all, and they're all looking. You've got some young blokes intertwined with some old blokes. I can just looking at it here. You've got a 17-year-old down right there in your senses, and so that's huge to have someone that young in your squad and really showing up for them is huge. So I think that'll definitely be an interesting game, and I can see Mexico going to push for that championship as best they can. But whether they make it all the way through is a different question. But I think that they're also a pretty good shot.
Yeah, look, though, I don't think they have the class of some of the big world superpowers that are still remaining in it. They don't have the names across the pitch, but, like you said, you can't fault home ground advantage. Both of these teams are South American teams, so they bring a lot of passion, a lot of flair with them in every level of the competition. And so, you will not be questioning their passion to win the game. But, I think... it's great to see Mexico still alive. We'll see how they go today. But, I wouldn't mind seeing England really step up. They've been a team that's obviously been disappointing at the pointy end of competitions. They haven't been able to finish the job for many, many years now. And so there's a lot of expectation on them, the weight of the nation, and obviously the depth of talent that comes from the English Premier League. And, it's the most represented league in the world at this World Cup. And so, there's always expectation on the shoulders of England to bring it home, as they say. And so, we'll see how they go as they continue through.
Yeah, for sure. So it'll definitely be a very interesting way to go. And just before we wrap up, just as we start wrapping these things up, I did want to touch on, we've seen the Viking row from Norway. I have never been more entertained watching fans yell row in an audience before. It's just so cool to see all the fans in one massive section, whether you're a Norwegian fan or not, and all the players down on the pitch around this drum rowing together in almost perfect unison is really cool to see. And it kind of just brings down to that idea of World Cup fan traditions. And I love that that's something that Norway all gets behind every single game. It's just a really cool tradition, I think.
Yeah, it certainly adds a vibe, that's for sure, to the atmosphere of the stadium and the interaction between the players and the fans in those moments. That's pretty special because at the end of the day, the World Cup wouldn't be what it is without the fans and their passion and getting out to watch each of their teams. So it's nice to see a team represented like that. It's nice to see a tradition. Obviously, football around the world is known for its fans, the passion of the fans, the chants. I mean, for me, being a Liverpool fan, you'll never walk alone. That's got to be one of the most special things that you will hear in a stadium around the world. But look, the Norwegian fans have stepped it up. Seeing them all, like you said, in unison as one, getting behind their team. That's what the World Cup's all about.
Yeah, and even the smaller stuff that you see there with fans covering their faces in their country's colour. I do love that the German fans, they do the flag on their face and then the flag in the afro wig that they wear. Really just, again, it's all about uniting together as a nation to support your players on the field. And it actually, I feel like it gives that extra motivation to players, as someone that plays sport myself, not on the professional country level like that, but when you've got people in the audience rooting for you and they're there for you and rooting for you on the sideline, it actually motivates you to play even better. And so I can only imagine the sort of motivation that these guys are getting with hundreds of thousands of fans packed through these stadiums, online, wherever it is, wearing the colours of their country and doing these traditions for them must be pretty huge.
Oh, it'd be massive. And like we said, in the France game, they mentioned 5 million fans have stepped through the gates of each of the stadiums so far in the World Cup. And obviously you've got millions upon millions of fans watching around the world, sending messages through to the players, jumping on the socials with comments. And it's for the fans. There's entertainment on the pitch, but there's definitely plenty of entertainment up in the stands as well as you watch each of those games. So the players wouldn't be what they'd be without the support that they have behind them. So great job from the world of football.
Yeah, and so that is all that we have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you, Dad, for joining me today. It was such a pleasure to have you on to talk about this sport and where we are in the World Cup. We're looking forward to seeing where they go in the end there.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be a part of things, and good luck with the rest of your podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time. Stay tuned, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content just like this. Thank you, guys.